Welcome to our celebration of the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. Woo! My name is Allison Hout, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the board of directors of the League of Women Voters of Illinois, and it is an honor. 100 years ago today, February 14th, 1920, the League of Women Voters was founded. And this morning, we are gathered in the room where it happened. Yeah. In this room, the League of Women Voters began as a political experiment designed to ensure that the 20 million women with the new responsibility of voting could exercise that right and have a voice in the workings of their nation. And now, to complete our welcome, it is my pleasure to introduce the executive director of our organization, Audra Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So thank you, Allison, and good morning to everyone again, and thank you so much for braving the bitter cold, but this is Chicago, so you're used to this, to be here on this very special day. So, as Allison mentioned, we are here in the Gold Room, the place where it all began, in the very hotel where our organization began 100 years ago today. And that's why we are so proud to claim Illinois as the flagship for the national organization that boasts over 700 local leagues across 50 states and beyond. So today we are joined by a variety of wonderful guests, each and every one of whom is special. We have elected officials from all levels of government, from our federal congressional delegation, our Illinois constitutional officers, and our Illinois General Assembly. We have elected and appointed officials from Cook County, our collar counties, and the city of Chicago. We are excited to welcome college presidents, provosts, and other undergraduate school representatives. And we're joined today by the heads of many of our peer organizations and coalition partners, as well as those who have provided invaluable services to our organization in furtherance of our work. And we're joined today by people who are simply excited by the work that we do and want to show their support. Now, in many ways, the League's existence as an organization is as meaningful as the history of women's suffrage itself. So as you now know, the League was conceptualized at the National American Women's Suffrage Association conference in 1919 by our founder, Carrie Chapman Catt, and was officially founded today, 100 years ago. Now, as Allison mentioned, our original purpose was to be a mighty political experiment to enable 20 million women to exercise their newly acquired responsibilities as voters and to use their newfound power to participate in shaping public policy. But we've since evolved into a national, grassroots, nonpartisan civic organization that believes that an active, engaged, and educated voters are the hallmark of a democracy. So today, as we celebrate our century-long history, we also acknowledge that even as notable as our mission is, our organization and its members were not immune from society's biases and prejudices. As we commemorate our history, so too do we acknowledge our mistakes and our missteps, including the omission of many of the stories of prominent suffragists of color. And we also recognize that we cannot truly fulfill our mission if our membership does not reflect the diversity of the communities that we endeavor to serve. Now, staying true to our mission hasn't always been easy, and it's only gotten harder as our political environment has grown so hyper-partisan. We've endured many attacks on our organization and its members. We've been accused of either being too partisan or not partisan enough, too outspoken or not vocal enough. Our stances on issues have been accused of favoring one party or being too neutral. But now more than ever, our commitment to objectivity and bipartisanship is exactly what is needed. Contrary to the sentiment that has been perpetuated by the powers that be, dissent is not something to be feared. To the contrary, I think of it as a hallowed American value to be embraced. From dissent, we learn more about the lives and the perspectives of people from all walks of life as we seek to find common ground. And I truly believe that no other organization is as uniquely situated to show that it is still possible to embrace differences and have civil, constructive discourse as ours. With nearly 4,000 members in Illinois alone, League members are smart, passionate, and tenacious. They're also humble and unassuming, and not always comfortable in touting their hard work and their efforts and successes. But for my League members today, you have a pass. Today, it's not only okay for you to pat yourselves on the back for all the hard work that you do and listen to our peers sing our praises, it's required. So please, sit back and take it all in. Now, I'd like to introduce a special guest who's flown in to join today's celebration, our U.S. League of Women Voters Legal Fellow, Kentaya Orange.
Good morning. Got my trusty laptop with me. Will do. It is truly an honor to be here in Illinois, in Chicago, my second hometown, where I earned my JD at Chicago Kent, and in the Congress Hotel, where the League was founded. Since that day in 1920, the League has grown to include a state league in all 50 states, and in what I believe will become the 51st state, Washington Douglas Commonwealth. And we have over 700 local leagues within the states, in the US Virgin Islands, and in Kenya and Hong Kong. The League continues to lead in defending, expanding, and enhancing democracy for people of all genders or no gender, and regardless of race, religion, sexuality, or circumstance. The unfortunate reality is that the League and our work is needed now more than ever. When our voting rights protections have been dismantled by our country's highest court, when politicians view voter suppression as just another tool in their electoral politics toolbox, when state governments enact laws designed to make it impossible for marginalized folks to participate in the democratic process, the League has stepped up and will continue to keep the pressure on those who seek to stamp out voices. We're doing this by ensuring political power is not diminished by undercounting in this 2020 census. We're working as census watchdogs in immigrant communities to counter disinformation campaigns designed to scare and silence them. It is important to ensure these folks that they know that their home is here, and so it is here that they should be counted. We've launched our national people-powered Fair Maps campaign to fight for independent redistricting and eliminate partisan gerrymandering. And where necessary, we use litigation to combat voter roll purges and other regulations that target poor folks, Black, Indigenous, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities, and our Asian American and Latinx populations. At the federal level, we're advocating for the For the People Act, sweeping democracy reform that will abrogate the influence of money in elections and secure free and fair elections. We advocate for the passage of the Voting Rights Advancement Act to restore voter protections against those who entrench themselves in power by usurping the power that rightfully belongs to the people and suppressing the vote. We expand democracy by registering tens of thousands of new voters each year at high schools, on college campuses, and at citizenship ceremonies. In fact, we expect to register 140,000 new citizens by the time of the general elections. We work to demystify political processes and the roles of public servants by training community members on both the issues and the procedures that impact them, and preparing them to monitor and participate in the rulemaking that directly affects their communities, not to mention the hundreds of public forums and candidate debates that leagues host every year. And we can't do it alone, which is why we partner with like-minded organizations and individuals when advocating for legislation or pursuing litigation. We know that the important thing is not to be the first or the only, but to be collaborators, to commune with and uplift, not to work on behalf on, but to work alongside, not to be the voice for the marginalized, but to amplify their message as stated in their own words. The League is a nonpartisan organization because the right to vote is not a partisan issue. The League does not endorse or oppose candidates for office because party designation does not and should not indicate support for a thriving democratic process. The work that the League and all of us in this room continue to do helps us live up to the promise of the greatest democracy in the world.
And now we have a short video to show you.
To the wrongs that need resistance, to the right that needs assistance, to the future and the distance, give yourselves. Illinois was on the forefront of women's activism, becoming the first state east of the Mississippi River to pass a law that granted women the right to vote in presidential elections. Through coalition and partnership, the power of the League was not one person, but the collective group of women advocates like Grace Wilbur Trout, Jane Addams, Maude Wood Park, and many others whose contributions were an indelible part of our history. But the League's past is far from perfect. The price of women's suffrage was the exclusion and eviction of women of color. Women like Alpha Suffrage Club founder Ida B. Wells were forced to continue their work outside of the efforts of the white women's suffrage movement, led in part by the League. But the future of the League would work to right those wrongs. Its members would eventually open their minds to the struggles of women of color and acknowledge the intersection of their fight for justice. In 1946, in response to World War II, the rise of women in the workforce, and larger numbers of women enrolling into higher education institutions, the National League of Women Voters became the League of Women Voters of the United States. The League began to modernize with a new and revised emphasis on voter services with updated guidelines on nonpartisanship and candidate forums. Local leagues gained in recognition with only one league in a community, giving more opportunities for stronger local studies, action on every level of government, and tailored response to the needs of each neighborhood. The League took the foundation of its success with the suffrage and women's rights movements to help build coalitions and partnerships with other organizations on emerging issues. In the spirit of common good and community, the League was able to expand its focus and to bring its fight to key legislation and issues like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The League was not always at the forefront of every movement, but it was always willing and able to stand in solidarity to right the wrongs of history. The passion of the past continues into the future. Local leagues and their members have continued to fight and stand strong in the role of advocates for informed participation in government. The League has helped to champion Voting Rights Act amendments of 1982, underwriting 150 debates on every level of government. The National Voter Registration Act in May of 1993, known affectionately as the Motor Voter Law. Bipartisan Campaign Finance Reform Act of 2002, otherwise known as the McCain-Feingold Act. Renewing the Voting Rights Act. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Equal Rights Amendment. The League joined and eventually led the fight for the ERA. As the League once served as a nerve center for women's advocacy in 1920, it continues to be an integral part of the future. It is our work that has made it possible for women to have a seat at the table. And we aren't done yet. We honor our past, however imperfect, but we look to a more perfect future. The League continues to evolve, inspiring younger generations to get civically involved, adding more people in our democracy, and advocating for a community legislative agenda. Today, the League of Women Voters of Illinois is working on creating fair maps through the redistricting process, engaging disenfranchised groups to help empower them with civic education and advocacy, fighting voter suppression, advocating for affordable housing, gun violence prevention, educating on the fair tax referendum, and much, much more. We envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. This is only our first 100 years. Join us for the next 100. Become an advocate. Become a donor. Become a volunteer. Become a member. Become a part of the League.
So, we are going to bring on a wonderful League member, a big supporter, and someone you all know, Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle.
Good morning. I'm grateful to be here today to be part of this celebration of 100 years of the League of Women Voters. I thought the pictures were great. I hope we get the sound worked out so we can fully appreciate the visuals. I want to thank Audra. Audra is the chairwoman of our Cook County Commission on Women, and I'm very grateful for her for stepping up. Thank you very much, Audra. The Illinois chapter of the League of Women Voters has advocated for many important issues over the decades. The abolition of the death penalty, voting rights, immigrant rights, education funding, mental health services, sound fiscal policies. The list is pretty long because the League of Women Voters is one of the most active and engaged civic organizations we have. Some of you may be aware that I'm a Democrat. And one of the things I like about our political parties is that they take positions over a broad array of issues. And so many of our advocacy organizations these days are focused on a single issue. And one of the things I'm grateful to the League for is that it's a multi-issue organization. In Cook County, the League of Women Voters has made helpful suggestions to our own Board of Commissioners to make our procedures more fair and transparent. And I'm grateful for this and for your commitment to attending our board meetings and consistently engaging with us on these important issues. And let me just thank Cynthia and Chris and Amy and Georgia and Diane and Karen who come to the meetings regularly. I'm grateful. So good government is important to me, as I know it is to you. And without transparency and accountability, we can't have good government. The League of Women Voters holds me accountable as an elected official and holds Cook County accountable as a unit of government. Their input makes us more effective, and we try to be responsible stewards of your taxpayer dollars with the support, of course, of the League. In everything from our parliamentary procedures to performance management, the League has weighed in and been a valuable partner. And so today, as a member of this organization, I want to congratulate all of you. Your advocacy is invaluable, and you've made Cook County and Illinois a better place to live through your important work. So thank you. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the junior senator from the state of Illinois, Tammy Duckworth. Senator Duckworth? Senator Duckworth is not only our senator, but she's been a public servant in a variety of arenas, not the least of which was her service in our armed forces. And we're grateful for her public service and her service in the military as well. Please welcome her warmly. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up. Okay. I'll get that. I'm lower. Thanks, Dan.
We dropped the pen and I tried to pick it up. I said, no, I'm closer to the ground than you are. You're so kind. Well, thank you, President Preckwinkle, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yay! I have to start with saying congratulations. 100 years. Isn't that amazing? 100 years ago, a group of activists gathered at this very spot to take on the most American task imaginable, making our union more perfect. Their right to make their voices heard at the polls still had not even yet been ratified, and yet they were already organizing to raise their voices even louder. The physical stars that our suffragists had earned marching through DC had barely begun to fade, and yet these women were already gearing up for more battles to come, refusing to let yesterday's bruises stop them from fighting for a better tomorrow. So I'm so happy to be with you today, celebrating a century with the League, a century of hard work, a century of progress, a century of making sure that our democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people includes all the people, regardless of something like gender or skin color. And I'm glad to be here with you as we work to make the next century even better. You know, it says something that as the size of the League grew through the years, so too did the breadth of its mission and the depth of its commitment. You fought for affordable education and fair housing. You've worked day and night for reproductive rights, for campaign finance reform, for clean air and water. You've gone to picket lines after picket lines to fight back against voter suppression. And through it all, you've risked safety and security, withstood hypocrisy and misogyny, refusing to stay silent so that your daughters and your daughters' daughters and my daughters could inherit the democracy that they deserve. For that, I am forever grateful. And for that, America is forever in your debt. Of course, everyone here knows that the fights are not over yet. Because even today, a century after the ink dried on the 19th Amendment, every American's rights to vote still is not secure. Not when voter suppression tactics still block so many people of color from the ballot, when voter rolls purges are still common and some in power are still fighting to install modern-day poll taxes. So today, let's take pride in how far we've come these past 100 years, but let's also recommit going to even greater lengths in the next 100, so that on February 14th, 2120, our grandchildren will be able to walk down this same block into this same building, knowing that the League and our union is more perfect than ever. Congratulations. Oops. I just saw a note on the podium. It says, U.S. Senator Tammy will now introduce the CEO of Girl Scouts of Greater Chicago and Northwest Indiana, Nancy Wright. Nancy is fabulous. Thank you.
It is a joy to stand before you and welcome the League of Women Voters into the Centennial Club. There we go. Okay, that's better. It's a joy to stand before you and welcome the League of Women Voters to the Centennial Club. Congratulations. It feels good to be 100, right? Like Girl Scouts, the League has been instrumental in joining together female trailblazers who fearlessly lift up their voices and light the path for change, so all voices are heard. No one organization can create this change alone. At Girl Scouts, we are proud of our unwavering 108 years commitment to advocacy, as well as working alongside organizations like the League of Women Voters. It is through these partnerships we have accomplished a great deal, and we have so much more to do. Each of us in this room, our organizations and communities are united by one important purpose: to be the change we want to see in the world. It is the power of this sisterhood that unites us and enables us to stand for more. Like the young women you will hear from shortly, Girl Scouts near and far, inspired by women who have come before us. And these same young women will soon fill the seats and utilize their voices in this very room. Without question, they are today's hope and tomorrow's future. Please give me a warm welcome to Sophia, to Leah, to Rachel, to Danica, and Jordan as they honor our rich history with the powerful words of our sisters, women of courage, confidence, and character, united to make the world a better place.
We shall someday be heated, and everyone will think that it was always so, just exactly as many young people think that all the privileges, all the freedom, and all the enjoyments which women now possesses were always hers. They have no idea how every single inch of ground that she stands upon today has been gained by the hard work of some little handful of women of the past. Susan B. Anthony.
I never doubted that the equal rights was the right direction. Most reforms, most problems are complicated, but there is nothing complicated about ordinary equality. Alice Paul.
The day will come when man will recognize woman as his peer, not only at the fireside, but in councils of the nation. Then, and not until then, will there be the perfect comradeship, the ideal union between the sexes that shall result in the highest development of the race. Susan B. Anthony.
The vote is an album of your quality, woman of America, the guarantee of your liberty. That vote of ours has cost millions of dollars and the lives of thousands of women. Women have suffered agony of soul which you have never comprehend. That you and your daughters might inherit political freedom. That vote has been costly. Prize it. Carrie Chapman Catt.
Every citizen of this country should be guaranteed that their vote matters, that their vote is counted, and that in the voting booth, their vote has much weight as that of any CEO, any member of Congress, or any president. Barbara Boxer.
Aren't they amazing? It's now my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Governor Stratton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Or is it still morning? Might still be morning. My days get a little mixed up sometimes. I am so proud to be here to celebrate 100 years of the founding of the League of Women Voters in this 100th year of women's suffrage in the United States. I am proud to serve as your 48th Lieutenant Governor, and I want to begin by acknowledging all of the elected officials who are hard at work every single day. And I want to give a special shout out to all of the fierce women leading in elected office at every level of government. Thank you for your endless hours that you put in to assure that our voices are at the tables where decisions are being made. Thank you, Nancy, for that wonderful introduction. And can we give it up again for the Girl Scouts who so bravely stood up? I would also like to thank Audra Wilson, Executive Director of the League of Women Voters of Illinois, for inviting me to speak with you today, and to thank our State President, Allison Hout, League members, and the Board of Directors. Thank you all for your leadership. Today, we honor the women who came before us and the women who are the leading voices of change in our state. I stand here with you today to recognize the milestones women have reached, and we do so as we also celebrate Black History Month. And I'm reminded of a recent visit that I took to Mississippi to explore my own family's history, and one stop along the way in Holly Springs, the birthplace of Ida B. Wells. She was not just an inspiration to me as a Black woman in politics, but one who endured so much so that we could all stand here today with the ability to make our voice and our vote count. Ida B. Wells spent her life as an activist and seeking to ensure that women, and Black women in particular, were not isolated from political movements and activism, despite the racism and sexism that we often must contend with even to this day. She founded the Alpha Suffrage Club right here in Chicago because she understood that Black women deserve the same political rights and access to the ballot, despite efforts to the contrary to exclude them from the women's suffrage movement. As we move into spaces where decisions are being made, We want those whose voices that remain unheard to go with us, so that all of us, not just some of us, will have access to opportunity and justice. We must honor women like Ida B. Wells with our vote in this critical election year, and we must never forget the women upon whose shoulders we stand. Women's health, safety, access to economic opportunity, and yes, our right to vote is under constant threat across this nation. And as your Lieutenant Governor, along with Governor Pritzker's leadership, we are committed to continuing the legacy that was established 100 years ago, and we will ensure that the women of Illinois are at the forefront of our state. And this means all women, women of color, trans women, women with disabilities, women veterans, all women and the girls who follow in our footsteps. As Ida B. Wells said, either I go with you or not at all. 100 years strong, and we've come too far to turn back now. Congratulations to the League of Women Voters. It's now my honor to introduce our next speaker, who is fighting the good fight in Washington, D.C. He's the only scientist, PhD physicist, who is in Congress, and he's fighting hard against this administration's denial of science, and he's a member of the Science Committee. Please welcome United States Representative Congressman Bill Foster.
Well, thank you, Juliana. And it's true, I sometimes do introduce myself as representing 100% of the strategic reserve of physicists in the United States Congress. But for those of you who may not know me, I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I'm a scientist, businessman, and the son of a civil rights lawyer. And it's my honor to represent the 11th Congressional District of Illinois in the U.S. House. That's a district that represents the second, third, and fourth largest cities in Illinois in the form of Aurora, Joliet, and Naperville. And I also represent, I'm here as a representative of the color counties, which were so important in getting the new governing majority in the U.S. House. This is a majority which for the first time has a majority of women and minorities in the governing caucus. And that's, and I just want to, really thank the League here for inviting me here to celebrate their 100th birthday, and want to thank Audra Wilson and also offer my forgiveness for placing me on the speaking order after Juliana, which is, but the League of Women Voters of Illinois has long played an important role in shaping policy and civil rights efforts in the United States. In 1920, the League was founded here in Chicago with a mission of helping American women learn more about national issues and secure the right to vote. And since then, the League has empowered women to actively participate in government, education, social and economic justice on many fronts. And you should be proud of that you have over the years broadened the scope of your involvement to the issues of the day. In the past 2 years, the League of Women Voters of Illinois has successfully taken action on issues such as helping establish automatic voter registration, fighting against gender discrimination in schools, and working to support the Equal Pay Act. By advocating for those policies, the League has expanded access to voting, high-quality education, and fair issues, and fair wages. These are issues that should never be partisan, and sometimes even are not. So the League continues to lead the way in its efforts to mobilize, organize, and implement policies to create a more just nation for everyone. Our community, and I want to thank you especially on behalf of all of the collar counties, they're better places because of the steadfast commitment to equality that the League of Women Voters has exhibited. It's fitting that we meet here on the day after the U.S. House of Representatives has passed historic legislation, H.J. Res. 79, which repealed the time limit to bring the Equal Rights Amendment. Thank you. Thank you. Well, So it's one big step closer to being enshrined in the U.S. Constitution where it belongs. And, simply put, the ERA is going to make our nation, a much better place by making gender discrimination flatly unconstitutional. I hope the Senate takes action on this, and I know that our senators are going to be working hard to make that happen. So I remain committed to your cause, all of your causes, and will continue to do whatever I can to help you with your efforts. So congratulations on your 100th anniversary, and it is now my honor to introduce Illinois' AG, Kwame Raoul, who has picked up the banner of social justice from Lisa Madigan and is running with it. Thank you all.
Well, Congressman, as much as it's hard to follow the Lieutenant Governor, I think I recall I may have taken physics pass-fail in college. Congratulations, good morning. Congratulations to the League of Women Voters on 100 successful years of promoting informed civic engagement and the one right upon which the security of all other rights depends, the right to vote. Special shout out to my fellow Chicago Kent alum, Kentia, and a special shout out to Audra. What many of you all don't know about Audra and I, when I got my start as a state senator, it was Audra who was volunteering to research policy and prepare many of the speeches that made me look good in the process. So we've had a long relationship, and I applaud her at every step of the way in her career. I've had a similar partnership with the League of Women Voters. As Tony mentioned earlier, the League of Women Voters were right there advocating for the abolition of the death penalty, which I had the great honor of sponsoring as the chief sponsor in the Illinois State Senate. I also was the chief sponsor of the Illinois Voting Rights Act and a constitutional amendment explicitly protecting the right of all eligible residents to register to vote and cast a ballot in Illinois, and the League has been right there along the way. I believe that Illinois has the strongest voting rights protection in the nation. It is now more important than ever to defend voting rights and to combat disinformation and voter suppression. The 2020 election is a critical turning point. The faith of many Americans in the integrity of their elections was shaken by the previous cycle. But where other states have embraced policies that make it harder to vote, Illinois has pressed forward to expand the access to the ballot box and to protect the integrity of voting, and the League has been right there advocating. Throughout the past century, the League of Women Voters of Illinois has been on the front lines of this progress, educating, registering, and advocating. And I'm honored to celebrate that legacy with you today. This year, we are also, of course, celebrating the centennial of the amendment that first gave women in every state the right to vote. But while the Constitution guarantees women the franchise, it has not explicitly prohibited discrimination on the basis of gender by a federal or state government. Enshrining that language in our founding document has been the work of more than one lifetime. The first Equal Rights Amendment was introduced in 1923. And today we finally stand on the brink of history. "38 states, including Illinois, have ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. All that remains is for the Archivist of the United States to do his job." I traveled to Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago to stand with my colleagues from Virginia and Nevada and to file a lawsuit to get the archivist to do just that. Recognize the 28th Amendment. Now, I'm pleased that Congress has moved to remove the stated deadline, and I hope that the Senate will follow. However, I do believe that if it took 200 years to ratify the 27th Amendment, we have ratified the 28th Amendment, and the archivist should recognize that. It is not just time, it is past time for constitutionally guaranteed equal rights. My daughter is a college student in the state of Missouri, a non-ratifying state. And let me tell you, when I traveled, when she was starting school there, and I saw the propaganda in the state of Missouri, I know why we need the ratification of the 28th Amendment. You can see it in our neighboring state. She aspires to be a lawyer. And when she takes her oath one day when she passes the bar, she will swear to support a Constitution. Well, I want her to swear to support a Constitution that equally supports her. So I will work to ensure that with my colleagues from Illinois, from Virginia, and from Nevada, as well with all of you all, and with the Senate, we must get this done. With that, I want to recognize, we mentioned the great Ida B. Wells. We are pleased to have with us today her great-granddaughter, my friend Michelle Duster.
Good morning. I think it is still morning. Thank you for coming here. I thank Audra Wilson for inviting me to participate in this special celebration. As you know, my great-grandmother, Ida B. Wells, was born into slavery in Holly Springs, Mississippi in 1862, and she started her career as a teacher. She became a journalist, a newspaper owner, a civil rights activist, a community organizer, a housing advocate, and last but not least, suffragist. She founded the Alpha Suffrage Club here in Chicago in 1913. And one of the first things she did was march in the suffrage parade in Washington, D.C., where she defiantly inserted herself alongside her fellow Illinois delegates, despite the request that Black women march in the back. In Chicago, she and her club members worked tirelessly, canvassing door to door in the Second Ward to help Oscar DePriest get elected as the first Black alderman in the city in 1915. And then 10 years later, after the 19th Amendment was passed, my great-grandmother, Ida B. Wells, ran for state senate in 1930. She got trounced. But I really admire how she had the courage to at least get into the race. Fast forward several decades, a housing community was named after her in 1941, and it stood for over 60 years in the Bronzeville neighborhood, where she lived for over 35 years. I have worked on a committee for the past 12 years to get a monument created to honor her on that same land. When I first started on this committee, Kwame Raoul was the state senator in that area. Tony Preckwinkle was the alderman for that ward. And so 12 years later, we're still working on this, but we will get it done this year. Richard Hunt is creating the monument, And so hopefully this will get done. It will. Sometime, I can't give a date because you know how these things go. But this time next year, we should be able to celebrate that. In addition to working on this monument for half of my life, dozens of organizations led by the League of Women Voters Chicago, Alderman Sophia King and Alderman Brendan Riley, helped to make Ida B. Wells Drive, which is right over here, become a reality in 2018. So as we all know, Illinois was the first state to ratify the 19th Amendment. Yes, Illinois, all right. We elected Carol Moseley Braun and Tammy Duckworth as our senators. We are a history-making state. Illinois is a leader with an unprecedented number of women in key statewide and local elections, including Juliana Stratton and Toni Preckwinkle, and so many other women who are sitting here today. Thank you all for your service. All of these women are history makers and need to be recognized and celebrated in public spaces. You might know that less than 10% of public statues and less than 2% of national monuments honor real women. Gasp. And Black women are a tiny fraction of the public history tributes. But there are people working hard to change this lack of representation. I have been in contact with people from the League of Women Voters Chicago, the Wabash Arts Corridor, and the Francis Willard House Museum to build a coalition to help create public art pieces, murals, monuments, and markers across the state of Illinois to honor our suffragists, political activists, and pioneers. My great-grandmother, Ida B. Wells, was one of the many Illinois trailblazers and brave women who dared to use truth-telling and activism to push the boundaries of her time. She died almost 90 years ago on March 25th, 1931. But she left a powerful legacy for us all to realize that organizing can affect change in this country. Thank you to all who work so hard to make the lives of Illinoisans better and brighter. And thank you, Girl Scouts, the next generation of leaders who give us hope for the future. Happy birthday, League of Women Voters. Thank you for your century of hard work to empower voters and defend democracy. Thank you all. And now I bring Audra and Allison of the League of Women Voters.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, all of our speakers. Thank you to everyone here and to the Congress Hotel, who's a very kind and generous partner in allowing us to have this birthday party in the same place where we began. There are a lot of people who contributed to this day and many other aspects of our anniversary celebrations, and we thank all of you. You all know who you are, and your contributions, each and every minute of your time, is much appreciated. All right, in closing, a little bit of a, well, here we go. In our league work, we seek to motivate, engage, and activate. We know people participate, and when people participate, causes are advanced and changes are made. When we provide access to information, when we partner with like-minded organizations, and when we advocate with our elected officials, we amplify our voice. This work that everyone does is selfless and long-term. We work toward goals that may not be achieved overnight or even in our lifetimes. And the people who will benefit, they are often people who we may never ever even meet or know. But we do this work, and we can all assume some responsibility for making change. That responsibility can be an action of any size. Nothing is too small because the stakes are too great. Activate your elected officials with a phone call or an email. They want to hear from us, right? Even if we agree with their stance and they agree with ours, they need to hear from us and know they need to be able to count us in. So we need to do that. We can do something as simple as easy as a social media post, a conversation, or a coffee with neighbors, family, or friends. And so, in the tradition of the League, I issue us in this room a call to action. Actually, 3 calls to action. Because 3 shows intent. Once could be an accident, twice could be a coincidence, but 3 shows intent. So, number 1, as has been mentioned before, and we are so grateful for the work, number 1, the Equal Rights Amendment. We need to amend the Constitution in order to guarantee rights and equal treatment for women. As was referenced earlier, just yesterday, the House voted to remove the deadline for ratification of the ERA, and the baton has been passed to the Congress. And we know that it is in good hands. If that thing can come to the floor, then something could happen. So, just 100 years after the passage of the 19th Amendment, we are so close to another milestone for women's equality in the Constitution, where it belongs. Hashtag ERA now. Number 2, the census and fair maps. These 2 items go together hand in hand. The first article of the Constitution mandates that every 10 years we count. It is crucial that we are all counted, and it's crucial that we share the message that census is easy, census is safe, and census is about fair representation. In Illinois, to get that fair political representation, we are putting an end to gerrymandering once and for all. We need to amend the Constitution in Illinois to create an independent commission to redraw Illinois maps and return voters to choosing their officials rather than officials choosing their voters. We have until May 3rd, 2020, to convince our Illinois legislators to get this amendment on the ballot for us in November. Check out these Illinois efforts to have fair representation at changeillinois.org. Hashtag fair maps. Number 3, getting out the vote. Our vote is our voice. Now, I know in this room, we all vote. No issue here. But we go outside those doors, not so much. So we need to all do our part to engage and activate. Get your people to vote. Voting is people power. Share our Illinois Voter Guide, a digital tool for exploring your ballot and your candidate information, and find that at illinoisvoterguide.org. Make your plan to vote and help others do the same. Hashtag GOTV. All right, there it is. 3 things. ERA, census fair maps, and getting out the vote. Everyone in this room can carry these messages to somewhere or someone that hasn't heard them before. And now we will close with a centennial reminder. The League of Women Voters of Illinois will always be here. And then we are going to close with song, and then after song, hashtag cake. It's my pleasure to introduce Keisha McFarland.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved her. Like me, I Now I see through me needing just toils and snares. We have already come. Yes, we have. 'Twas grace that brought all of us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
So we'll do one more song. I need your participation if you could. Can you put your hands together? Help me if you know this. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus, won't you please? Oh, daily walking close to thee. Lord, let it be. Dear Lord, let it be. Oh, I am weak, but you are strong. Yes. Jesus, keep me from all harm. Oh, I'll be good just as long, Lord, if you daily walk with me. Now, if you know it, help me sing just a closer walk. Just closer walk with, yeah. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Come on, help me say, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. One more time. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to